Remain undefeated 11-0. Here is Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin after a very, very ugly win.
We couldn't run the ball effectively when we needed to. We dropped too many significant passes, very catchable, makeable passes. We didn't make significant plays in the special teams game. Our kickoff coverage unit wasn't good enough. We turned the damn ball over. We gave up big plays in critical moments on defense. Can't have it. They converted a long run on a possession down before the half. Unacceptable. They had a 70-yard touchdown late in the game. Unacceptable. And so we're fortunate tonight. It's good to proceed with the victory. I acknowledge that. But not a lot happened tonight to be proud of or to be excited about other than that.
I love it. I love it.
I mean, other than that, how was the play?
Coach, that's real.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, that was real. He's really angry. He's 11-0. A lot of time you coaches, Coach Mangini, you guys say things just to get us riled up in the locker room, but Coach Tomlin was really upset.
Himself riled up. He got himself riled up. And he had reason to be. That Steelers team struggled to beat a very depleted Ravens team yesterday. So, Coach, good morning. Eric Mangini with us right now. Coach, let's start with, are you surprised that it was so hard for Pittsburgh to walk away with a W in this one?
Well, no, I'm not surprised by Mike's reaction. I'm not surprised by some of the difficulty that they faced with the Ravens. You get in the situation where you're as successful as they've been, and you're playing a team that's depleted. And you saw the Stephen Tuitt tweet talking about how it should be an easy win. You're constantly having to overcome this sense of complacency, and human nature comes into it. And I talk about it all the time, is learning how to win and dealing with that environment. And so I never felt that the game was out of the Steelers' control yesterday. I never felt like they weren't going to win the game. And even though he said it looked like a JV game, the good news is that their JV is better than Baltimore's JV. I actually thought the last time they played was a worse performance when they gave up 47 carries for 265 yards. Is it like 5.6 yards a carry, and they were either the first or second rush defense in the league. They had 35 minutes time of possession. They got dominated the last game and found a way to win. But the frustration here for Mike is that when you play a team that you're supposed to beat and you play down to that level, eventually it's gonna catch up with you. And he's trying to keep his finger on the throttle. And I'll just say that Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick were two of the best at, when you were winning, keeping their finger on the team to make sure that there was always that sense of urgency.
All right, so, Coach, I know I was joking a little bit entering this conversation about Coach Tomlin because they're sitting here at 11-0, and he's really angry, and you get the win, and we know how hard it is to win in the National Football League week in and week out. But the reality for me is it's not about the game, right? Like, and it's hard. This is a tough conversation because as a player, former player, you have to understand that you can't make decisions in a vacuum. You can't have certain conversations in a vacuum because we're trying to set up the league and the people that's going to follow us for years to come. Like, I got to think about what is the wide receiver position and the way deals are structured for the guys that's coming 5 years behind me. Jerry Rice, Terrell Owens, Marvin Harrison, those guys paved the way. Ray Lewis's of the world, Peyton Manning's of the world. So I say all that to say this. You know, for me, it wasn't about the game. So when we talk about the why behind this game looking sluggish and the why behind the Pittsburgh Steelers playing the way they did and the Baltimore Ravens, we can't have this conversation without talking about this week. COVID-19 struck these locker rooms, struck this locker room hard. So I get it. And after the game, you started hearing more talk and more rumblings about, we didn't have much practice time. I pulled my hamstring because I wasn't conditioned. So what do you expect? So I guess for me, and I say we can't have these conversations in a vacuum because look, we want football. Football is awesome. It's a distraction throughout. It's been a distraction throughout, half of 2020. We all need it. We love football. And the NFL, the players, the coaches have done a phenomenal job, okay, in making sure guys are as safe as they can be while putting a good product out there. But at the end of the day, it's getting to that part of the season now, as cases are increasing, now it's more challenging. So I guess, Nick, coach, my question is, how do you continue to keep the team together when there's so much change? Like this, it's already tough throughout a week. We're away from our families all 7 days a week pretty much. So that's 9 to 5. That's sometimes 6 to 5. So now with all these changes, how do you keep things together when you're talking about, oh, we're not practicing today, we are practicing today, we're doing Zoom, or we're going to meet over here, we're going to meet over there. I just think we can't have these conversations in the vacuum right now because it's so tough to keep everything together, Coach and Nick.
Yeah, it is really tough, Brandon, and everybody is going through this and trying to navigate through a landscape that there's no map for. And I really believe that Mike Tomlin's frustration comes from the fact that once you do get to the playing field and you've overcome all the challenges during the course of the week, there's an expectation that you're going to perform at a certain level. And his team is obviously very good, and he's obviously has very high standards for what he expects from his team. So overcoming those challenges, getting to the point where you can actually show up and play, and then playing really poorly, they're 11-0 because he doesn't want to hear excuses, and he has high expectations, and that's, I think, where his disappointment comes from. It is hard. Everybody right now in the league and everybody right now in the country and the world is trying to figure out the best way to go through this and to deal with it, and it's we're all facing those challenges.
And I think Tomlin understood that while we're all facing those challenges of those two teams, it was the Ravens, not his team, who had been decimated this week by COVID. And yet these two teams, when you watched them, they looked about even. And I think Tomlin's frustration comes from this place. He knows this team is not as good as an 11-0 record suggests. They've beat 2 playoff teams this year. They've had 1 impressive victory over a good team. That was a Browns team that I think is a good team, but nobody else seems to. Their other victory over a playoff team was a Titans team that missed a 45-yard field goal in the final minute to tie that game. And he knows 4 of their next 5 games are against playoff teams. And I also think he knows this. This very well might be the first-round matchup in the playoffs. The Steelers are not going undefeated, Kevin Wildes. They're going to lose at least once in the final 5 weeks, if not twice. And if they are the 2 seed, Baltimore has a very soft schedule the rest of the way. If they steady themselves and get to the 7 spot, I think Baltimore goes into that potential third, not even rematch, but their 3rd time against them, saying, game 1, Lamar had 4 turnovers, threw a pick 6, threw another pick that was almost returned for a touchdown. It then got punched in, and we lost by 4. Game 2, we were on our 2nd and then 3rd string quarterback. Game started with a fumble. Then there was a pick 6. We still were a 3rd and 6 stop away from getting the ball back down 5 with 2 minutes left. I think Baltimore thinks, give us a 3rd shot. Fully healthy with Lamar, we can beat these guys. And I think Tomlin understands, having watched these 2 teams play twice, Baltimore has played very poorly in the first matchup. They had basically a 2nd-string team in the 2nd matchup, and both of the games came down to the final couple minutes. And I think that rightfully, Wildes, concerns Mike Tomlin, because I think he knows the 2 seed for them is very possible as well.
I like this. You're taking a page out of my book. It's like what I do to the Chiefs. Like the wins don't count anymore. Yeah, they're 11-0, but this and but that, and oh, but they played Jacksonville. It's also what we do to Baker, and you rip us for that. But I like that you're coming away to our sort of way of thinking. When you look at the schedule, Mangini, I call you Coach. Coach, I am a little bit nervous about this Washington game. They've been just chilling out since Thanksgiving, getting ready, got the #1 pass defense. They've got Chase Young going to make Ben Roethlisberger's night really bad, and then at the same time, Steelers are kind of like, I don't know. This was a bumpy road for them. So the question is this, real quick, because I know we have to go to break. Certain times in like a no-hitter, it's like, oh, you got a no-hitter going, and the pressure starts to like ratchet up, like, oh, don't talk to the pitch. It's starting to ratchet